Today I'm going to be getting the Platinum Trophy for Rockstar Games' classic hit, Bully, which came out in 2006 and for whatever reason got a second version in 2008. The game is somehow playable on the PS5, but Lord have mercy, it's probably the least playable thing I've yet to get a Platinum Trophy on. The Platinum Trophy consists of 38 trophies and the entire game is set around the plot that you, Jimmy Hopkins, are an intolerable little piece of fecal matter that gets dropped off at boarding school because your horny mom wants to take a year-long vacation with your new rich, ugly stepdad. You begin the PTSD Awakening School Simulator by getting your ass thrown out onto the curb and immediately greeted by the vice principal or something. I don't really know what her job is, but she works in the school's office and has some very sus sexual relationship with the school's headmaster. Anyways, you go and meet the headmaster and he threatens you with imposing doom and touchings where you don't want them. Next, you get an overview of the school and how bad it really is, even though everyone on the outside believes it's a swell place. There is 5 chapters to this game and that contains most of the trophies within. We begin chapter 1 by going to our dorm and changing into the amazingly seductive outfits that all the students must wear. And by all the students, I mean the 5 different variations of students that get spammed all over the map since this game was made in 2006 and hadn't yet discovered AI density. We get introduced into the combat of this game, and after touching the first 3 underage boys of the day, you get attacked by a retarded cousin spawn, which looks just like your second cousin's kid. After getting saved, we are permitted to enter the boys' dorm, which probably smells like cum socks and Kool-Aid. Like all good things do. We meet Gary, who is actually this game's main villain. You do a lot of missions and stuff with him in the first chapter, but then he sort of just disappears from the story until the very end. Almost like how your father disappeared from your life when you were a small child just for some milk. For some context, Gary is sort of a psychopath and loves to pick on everyone. I bet he even gatekeeps himself and breaks his own tiny penis to get a high off his own shame. Gary is basically our fairy godmother for the beginning of this game and shows us around the school, exposing what everyone is. Even though you could guess pretty easily based on the very stereotypical outfits the developers bestowed upon everyone. We go to our first class and it's Chemistry 1. Since I finally graduated high school, I can actually talk shit and name drop without feeling guilty about it. My chemistry teacher in high school was probably the ugliest lady I've ever seen in my life. And just imagining her on a beach makes me want to throw myself out of a building. Which is all I ever thought about while doing this class throughout the entirety of this game. Anyways, chemistry class is by far the easiest of those available. Since we are just thrown to this school, nobody here respects us yet, and you constantly get jumped and the game starts to feel like a normal evening in Detroit. There's even a full-fledged boss fight with some random student named Davis, and we expertly take him out by throwing random assortments of objects on the ground at him, beating his little boy meat and earning the slingshot for our efforts, which would go on to be one of the most used items in the game. Quite a while later, Gary gives us a mission to go bully some football players while shooting at them from a tree, and apparently they have no directional awareness or eyeballs since they have no clue where I am. But this fun would halt because my game broke and I had to close it and restart. And thanks to this game being older than I am, it doesn't have an autosave feature, so I got thrown years back to my last save. What a swell start. Anyways, I got put into art class and completed it. All we drew was our teacher this entire game, which is kind of self-fulfilling for her, but I guess she is a high school teacher, so she needs praise wherever she can get it. I got a trophy for completing 3 classes, which is more than some of you ever probably do at your own school. There was a really stupid quest where you have to escort some kid named Algie to the bathroom since he is constantly pissing himself. Honestly, you can't make this up, but all the 40-year-old devs at Rockstar who have corrupt minds like myself did. This quest really exposed me to the dark side of this game, in which when you die or fail, you quite literally fail your ass off and have to restart the entire mission from ground zero, which would ultimately make going for this platinum trophy a giant pain in the ass. I ended up just not doing it for a while since I couldn't stand restarting it one more time for the life of me. Instead, I went after the After Hours trophy, which just consists of you staying out past curfew for a super easy amount of hours. Honestly, if you don't even go for this, you'll get it anyway since you will definitely do it on accident since curfew is very easy to miss. The next day, I finally helped that piss boy go to the bathroom, and I don't know what he did while he waited for me, but the dude gave me $5 for my assistance, which is chump change out here. I completed another class and apparently did 6 by now since I got another trophy for completing 6 classes. The math be mathing, but I don't be mathing, you know? I then continued the chapter I was currently in, which just consisted of random side objectives and ridiculous quests within the story. Some of these included me walking this absolute dime piece back to her room. And Lord have mercy, we need an updated graphics version of her because, gyat! She looking like Mary Jane if Mary Jane didn't get held down by Peter's web. I don't know what school the game's devs went to, but Lord have mercy, that is just not realistic at all.
That's what I'm saying.
Anyways, this nerd needed my help while he was giving a speech, and instead of assassinating him like good old Abe, I actually protected him from a bunch of jocks who were trying to ruin the speech. But honestly, they didn't even have to do anything because the speech was pretty bad anyway. I mean, just look at the kid. He looks like Simon from Alvin and the Chipmunks, except without the cuteness appeal since he isn't a damn chipmunk. It also turned into Halloween time, and Gary had a very questionable costume on. I'm not sure what it was exactly, but I have a feeling it's military propaganda. Anyways, we basically just bully some kids all night long, just like the game is called. The next day we get another mission with Gary, and a few minutes into it we find out Gary is actually not one of our boys and set us up in an entire cage fight for us against Russell, who is the inbred from the beginning of the game. We basically have a boss fight with Russell, and he even gets his own little health bar at the top. After beating Russell with common sense, since he is obviously not all there, we got a trophy for completing the first chapter in the game's story. Oh yeah, and we also stopped being friends with Gary and made sweet love times with Russell, who was honestly just confused since he got dropped as a baby one too many times. I failed Art 3, which is complete BS because art is subjective anyway, and we get a main quest storyline which is about our English teacher's drinking problems. What makes this so funny is that a teacher at the school I went to actually had a drinking problem, and seeing how boring English is as a subject, I'm not even surprised anymore. In fact, I'll be surprised if the average man didn't develop an alcohol addiction with that job. Anyways, our objective is to find all his hidden stashes around the school, which I did with ease since alcohol cures all problems. There's another quest in this chapter with the super hot lunch lady who makes us go retrieve some groceries for her in the city near the school we are in. This unlocks a whole new world for us as we can finally leave the school, but before we do, can we just talk about how accurate this lunch lady is in relation with the real world? Like, I swear to God, I had a lunch lady like this and I got sick from a hair in my food and never once got school lunch again. A true canon event in a spoiled child's life. Anyways, we venture into the city to pick up all of her items, which was probably the simplest task I've ever been assigned as a young boy. I brought the items back to her, and even after 10 minutes of recovery, I still wasn't ready to see that sexy face again. Chapter 2 ended up being very, very long of a chapter. I went from boxing rich kids and beating their asses just like their dads do at home, to taking out some baddie on a date at the 22 FPS carnival. A wondrous place where the game quite literally has a heart attack and nearly dies every time you waltz around in it. I even became a paper delivery boy at one point so I could really see what a workman's day felt like. But all I got left with was morning wood. Since I was beating all the rich kids at their own boxing ring, they got a little mad and took the fight outside the ring. We get another boss fight-esque section, and once I defeated countless goons and the main guy, I got a trophy for the completion of the second chapter, Sophomore. And Popularity Contest, which I guess is a trophy that pops in addition to the completion of the second chapter, since you gain respect from a ton of students or something at the same time. I ended up going on a little horny takeover within the school and kissed the same girl 25 times in a row. So much so that some random ass girl just walked over and slapped me for public indecency. But I didn't care since I got a trophy for it anyway. Although, isn't it kind of weird how adults had to code in these children making out with each other? Like, I know I make some questionable jokes in these videos, but even that seems a little weird to me, which is saying something. In chapter 3, it focuses a lot on the greasers, which is basically just another stereotype of kids in the story. The main greaser's name is Johnny, and he is quote unquote in love with this girl named Lola. Too bad love isn't real, and Lola has been sneaking around with loads of other men. Our job is to take pictures of her in the act, which wasn't very hard since she's a giant hoe and we caught her immediately. In fact, she was pretty much like 100 feet away, and I'm not sure how Johnny couldn't just walk over and confront her himself. Apparently, the only solution to this was not to talk it out with the girl, but instead have an epic bike fight inside of an indoor skate park like all the cool kids did in the early 2000s. Sometime later, there was a bike race with me and a ton of the greasers for Lola's love. I won and then just start making out with her and right in front of everyone else. This obviously made Johnny super mad, so then we have an all-out brawl with him at the end of the chapter. I beat him like I beat all these little children off and got another trophy for the completion of yet again another chapter within the game. Chapter 4 is sort of the last chapter before the last chapter. Yeah. Anyways, the nerds turn on us and we have a super hard battle with them, which shockingly they are one of the hardest enemies in the game, mostly because they use all that brain power to compensate with strong weapons that kill us very fast. I ended up getting a trophy within for knocking out 200 opponents in the game, and then we have a boss fight with that one nerd I helped at the beginning of the game. I guess his loyalty didn't go far. Then again, neither did my ex-girlfriends, so I'm not even affected anymore. I end up beating his white ass and he reluctantly agrees to be my friend. I guess our main character is just truly alone. I completed some errands which are like side quests that just happen at random times throughout the game and got a trophy for it. And then around an hour later, I ended up in a drained pool with a giant bull mascot fighting for my life. If I woke up yesterday and you told me that's where my life would be heading, I wouldn't be surprised, just disappointed. Anyways, I defeated the mascot boy and stripped him down to the nude and left him to die in his own pool of blood. Little did I know that this mascot costume would be what we used to finally take down the jocks. Basically, I got dressed up as a mascot and we just battled like 4 football players at once, refusing their entrance into my butthole in front of the entire school, which is a nerd's worst fear. After beating their sad deflated meats for a few minutes, I tackled Ted, which was apparently such a good tackle he died, and I got a trophy for committing accidental manslaughter, or just being a senior. Now we are finally on the last chapter in this game, and before finishing it, I reached $1,000 in my butthole's wallet, giving me the trophy, Rich Kid Blues. In the final chapter of this game, you actually get expelled from the school since Gary is a little lying piece of ass cheeks. So the solution we come to is to chase him down on top of a building and try to eliminate him like it's a damn Star Wars movie showdown. And after spamming attack on Gary in the same place over and over, we end up beating him and finishing the main story of this game. The headmaster for the school realizes we aren't as bad as Gary is, so he expels him instead of me, and we get introduced to Endless Summer, which is basically just this game telling us it's free roam time, or the part of the game where we get to go clean up all the trophies I haven't yet gotten, which is lots. The first one on my hit list was called Green Thumbs Up, a trophy you get for picking flowers, which you have to give to girls or gay guys. Now, since I'm based, I didn't even approach a single dude to speed up the trophy. Instead, I just relentlessly pimped out all these girls and never even kissed them after giving them flowers because I don't need that in my life. And then I farmed the marble trophy, which you get for making students slip and break their butts with marbles. Literally 1 minute later, I got the trophy for using the stink bomb on a bunch of kids, also since you can farm it in the same place as the marble one. I then taunted the same poor kid hundreds of times, really berating his self-esteem for another trophy. Then I gave wedgies to a bunch of kids, bought a ton of sugary sodas to piss off my dentist even more since his wife just left him, and kicked a soccer ball against a wall to become like that one video with the tennis ball kid and his cancer. I did some more errands for another errand trophy and purchased 250 different items of clothing, which is a ridiculous trophy that would take hours upon hours to get if you don't use the money glitch like I did. Next, I stole bikes from a bunch of defenseless children, egged a bunch of adults' cars since they won't let me drive yet because my balls haven't quote-unquote dropped.
Cap.
And I got the trophy for traveling 50 kilometers on a skateboard, which is a feat even Tony Hawk probably couldn't do. You have to play this one carnival game numerous times to break 300 glass bottles in it for a corny trophy unlock. And again in the carnival, there's an arcade game, which you have to get the high score on to unlock another trophy. And Lord have mercy, this arcade game was actually a decently hard challenge, seeing as it took me 40 minutes to beat after dying numerous times. But I evidently got the trophy in the end, so who's the real winner now? I then won some go-kart races, rode my bike super far, and then won some more go-kart races, all in the name of Ricky Bobby. But since my time in the Speedway was over, I still had to make ends meet, so I took up lawn mowing as my profession and got a trophy in addition to bad pay. 30 errands is the max amount you need to do in this game for the Mama Boys trophy, which I did after relentlessly destroying this poor dude's car as my boy jerked off in the background. I also ran 100 kilometers on foot for the marathon trophy, which took forever and wanted to make me rip my hair out like my ex-girlfriend made me quite literally do earlier this year. At this point, I had basically every trophy in the game. All that was left was to reach 160,000 treble points and a few easy side objectives. One of these included riding my bike 100 kilometers and then to pass Shop 5, which was my last class I hadn't yet completed since it's super hard to do. But once I completed Shop 5, I also got all the room trophies for another trophy pop right after. In order to reach the 160,000 treble points, you basically just have to grind out breaking all the laws in this game, which I did by just riding my bike in circles and punching little children in the face and prefects to get a high Wanda level. Now I would do this for fun, and I did. It took me around 3 hours and I finally got there, but it was definitely a demoralizing grind since it's just so stupid and made me feel like I was wasting my time. But finally, I got the platinum trophy for bully, and Lord have mercy, if I have to punch one more kid, it's gonna land me in court.